Okay, so yesterday, when we were online, we read chapter 10, right? Do you remember what happened in chapter 10? Right? Chapter 10 is titled The Middle Passage, right? What happened in chapter 10?
Did they go underneath the boat and on the bottom, the woman and the children?
Right. What caused the women to go underneath the boat, below deck?
There was a storm.
Right? There was a storm, right? Yes or no, though?
During the storm, one of the waves caught one of the children, and the mom, right, she jumped down to save her, either to save her child or to run away from the captors because she broke free of the chains or the ropes.
Right. Do we agree that that's what happened with her? That's what she did?
Yeah.
Yes. Um, why would she jump overboard? Why would she jump overboard, Zane? Why would she jump overboard?
God is saving your child into that. So she doesn't have to suffer the sort of
Right, right. So she doesn't have to suffer anymore or be tortured, right? What else? Yes, Dallas.
Her daughter was the one that was in the ocean that fell off in the waves. So she wanted to save her, but she broke free, so maybe they could have escaped, which was happening.
Right. So she jumped overboard to save her. Did she truly jump overboard to save her? Would she have been able really to save her during a very terrible storm, Tristan?
No, I think it was the fact that it was her daughter. She was only staying alive because she had a daughter, and now that her daughter was about to die, she just gave up.
Right. And what's that word that we keep hearing over and over and over? Right? She lost that word, Michael.
Hope.
She lost hope. Right? We keep hearing the word hope over and over throughout this story. Okay? So she lost her hope and she jumped overboard. What else happened in this chapter? Really important stuff. Yes, Jordan.
Like 16 women died, I think. Like 10 children died.
Right. 16 women died during the storm. Right? Yes. There were rats. We've learned about their living conditions, which consisted of rats and what else? Edward.
Amari wished that the ship would sink.
Yes, Amari wished that the ship would sink. Why would she do that? Zane. Zaman. Right, so they can suffer and they can all die. Do we agree with that?
Yes.
Yes, yes. And this is one question I didn't pose to you all yesterday, but I'm going to pose it to you today. What would be the point of Amari wishing that the ship would sink? Right? We have over and over that she's started to wish that she was dead. Why would she wish that this ship would sink, Michaela?
Because she lost everything, and then there's no reason to live.
Right, she lost everything, yes. To be put out of her misery and torture, yes, Jordan.
To be put out of her misery, and also so the white people will die as well along with her. She's like, if I'm going down, they're going down with me.
Exactly, Daniel. Very good, Daniel. Okay, so Daniel agrees with what Jordan is saying. Anyone want to add anything else? Did she have the guts to jump overboard like the other woman did? No. Why is that? Why is that, Zaman?
Because she wanted revenge on the white people, so she wanted the entire thing to sink.
She wants revenge on the white people, so she wants the entire thing to sink. But why couldn't she just, if she's such in turmoil, right, and torture, why doesn't she have the guts to take her own life?
Because she can't break free from the chains or whatever, obviously. But also because she just doesn't want to die. Because I feel like she thinks eventually it is gonna get better.
Right. And what is that word that keeps coming up for us, Dallas? She has what? Hope. Right? She still is holding on to hope. Hope of what? Hope of what? That it'll get better, right? That it'll get better. What else, Dane?
She might go back home.
That she might go back home. Does she think she'll go back home?
No.
Right? We don't know. That's a far trip, and we're gonna see it on the video clip, right? That's a far way for her to go back home. What could the possibilities be for her that she's holding on to this hope?
Hope of freedom.
Hmm?
Hope of freedom. Like freedom.
Hope of freedom. Yes. Hope of freedom. Yes.
Hope of escaping.
Hope of escaping. A very good one. Yes.
Still believe on what Afi told her.
What did Afi tell her?
But she's the chosen one to live, and that's what her parents will want.
Very good. Can you say it a little louder so they can hear you?
That's what her parents will want. And that she's the chosen one.
Because Afi is the one, right, who is that support system that she has, and she's encouraging her, right? Your family would want you to live. You're young. There's still hope for you. Things can turn around for you. Don't give up. You'll find your strength, okay? Very good. What about, there's something that was happening with Amari, right? That she was learning lessons in the other chapter. What happened in this chapter that continued on?
She learned from the ginger-haired man how to speak English.
Right, she learns how to speak English a little bit more. What else? How does she learn? What is she actually learning? It says it in the chapter. Tristan, do you remember what she was actually learning? Arnaldo, what is she actually learning?
She was learning what things in the ship were called. For example, the places like the deck and things like a bucket.
Right, she was learning things about the ship, and what else? What else? It was a very important part. Daniel.
Learn about the man's name.
She learned the man's name. What was his name?
Bill.
Bill. So Bill was helping her develop what with the language? Huh?
Knowledge.
He was giving her knowledge, but what kind of knowledge was he giving to her? Right? Not that she just learns words, right? What else was he teaching her?
Basic survival knowledge, I guess you would say.
Right? Basic survival knowledge. And what would that basic survival knowledge be, Tristan?
He's teaching her how to understand the language, to understand words that the slaves captors would like tell her, so she could use it to her advantage.
Right. I'm looking for this word. You guys are not saying it. What is the word? What is he teaching her?
It's like a strategy. No. I'm trying to think of.
You guys can always refer back to your text to see what he's doing, right? He's doing something more than just teaching her a word, right? Right? Because we can teach a baby hi, bye, right? He's teaching her sentences. He's teaching her how to talk, how to have a conversation, right? And we already know this is something he's not supposed to be doing. We already know that he's doing it in secret because we know that he would get in trouble, right? So this is really important. So now she's using all this as what? What advantage is she using this for? Why does she want to learn how to speak the language, Jordan?
So she could hear what the white men are saying?
She can hear and also understand, right? She can understand and she'll be able to tell someone else. So she'll be able to use it to do what?
To escape?
To escape, right? She'll use it to escape.
Because they're going to think, oh, she doesn't speak our language, so we can say
Right.
whatever we want about it.
Exactly, because Afi already taught her how to play dumb and lame, right? That she doesn't know. Okay? Very good, guys. I just wanted to make sure we got all that information in there. So now I'm going to show you 2 video clips. And our previous chapter was, of course, titled The Middle Passage. So this is going to show us life aboard the slave ship. Okay? So we've read about it, and now we're going to actually see it. Okay? And what I want you to pay attention to is the interaction with the slaves and the sailors. But then also when we start to read our chapter, I want you you will be able to, and I have our objective up there, you'll be able to explain what happens between the sailors and the slaves. right? Because our chapter is called Land Ho. Okay? So I'm going to, I know everybody laughs when they hear that. I'm going to put the video on. Those of you, thank you, Kason. Bill was teaching Amari English. All right.
Got it?
Yeah.
From about 1525 to 1866, 12.5 million Africans were taken from their homeland and forcibly transported across the Atlantic, a journey that approximately 2 million of them would not survive. By the turn of the 18th century, European merchants were building vessels capable of transporting hundreds of enslaved people per journey. These ships had extra portholes for ventilation, weapons mounted on deck in case of rebellion, and additional compartments added below deck to take on more human cargo. Before boarding the ships at African port cities, enslaved people were stripped of their clothing and remaining possessions, and had their heads forcibly shaved. During boarding, which could take weeks or even months, enslaved people lived on the deck of the ship in a temporary wooden house constructed by the crew. The crew also installed netting around the deck of the ship, designed to catch those enslaved.
Okay, hold
who
on.
might
I'm pausing it
for
because
death
Kason said that he
overforce.
cannot hear it. So I am going to try it again. Nicole said no, they cannot hear it. Okay, let me try it again.
Did you click that little tab that says
I
include?
thought I did. I thought I
Okay.
did, but I might not have.
From about 1525 to 1866, 12.5 million Africans were taken from their homeland and
15 minutes.
forcibly transported across the Atlantic, a journey that approximately 2 million of them would not survive. By the turn of the 18th century, European merchants were building vessels capable of transporting hundreds of enslaved people per journey. These ships had extra portholes for ventilation, weapons mounted on deck in case of rebellion, and additional compartments added below deck to take on more human cargo. Before boarding the ships at African port cities, enslaved people were stripped of their clothing and remaining possessions, and had their heads forcibly shaved. During boarding, which could take weeks or even months, enslaved people lived on the deck of the ship in a temporary wooden house constructed by the crew. The crew also installed netting around the deck of the ship, designed to catch those enslaved who might opt for death over forced servitude. Once moved below deck, enslaved people would find themselves stuffed into compartments with ceilings as low as 4.5 feet, where they would spend most of their voyage. They were segregated by gender and age. Adult men were kept separately and shackled in pairs. Women usually left unchained in their designated compartment, and children often free to move about the ship. There were no sanitary facilities of any kind. Enslaved people were forced to relieve themselves where they sat, creating hellish conditions when combined with the heat and lack of ventilation below deck. Disease was rampant. Dysentery, malaria, yellow fever, smallpox, measles, and influenza ravaged the enslaved and crew members alike. The enslaved people generally spent about 8 hours a day above deck, but were still separated by gender, with a barricado, a reinforced wall that could be used to protect crew members in case of a revolt. Enslaved people were also subject to forced exercise, which sometimes included dance and song for the entertainment of the crew. Enslaved captives deemed disobedient were tortured and beaten, usually whipped with the especially cruel cat-o'-nine tails, a tool designed to inflict maximum pain. Enslaved enslaved people who refused to eat their typical meal of rice and beans were forced to do so. Sometimes with a speculum oris, a medieval tool used to force open a person's mouth. Women, while usually left unshackled, were raped and sexually abused by members of the crew, sometimes arriving in the New World, carrying the children of their attackers. But it was the women, using their minuscule freedoms, who would often coordinate mutinies against their captors. But these rebellions were rarely successful. The true extent of the horrors of the Middle Passage came to light in a 1783 court trial over the slave ship Zong. The Zong left present-day Ghana in August of 1781 with 442 enslaved on board. After a 2-month journey riddled with navigation errors, 62 enslaved people and 7 crew members had perished without reaching their destination. Disease was spreading throughout the ship, and fresh water was running dangerously low. Captain Luke Collingwood was afraid of the financial cost of more deaths. Enslaved people that died of disease were not covered by the ship's insurance, but the enslaved who drowned were. Collingwood ordered approximately 130 enslaved people thrown overboard. He claimed it was necessary to do so to halt the spread of disease. At the trial between the Zong's owners and their insurance company, the owners argued that because it was legal to kill sick animals for the health of a ship, it was legal to treat enslaved people the same. The court agreed with the ship's owners, but the trial itself exposed the horrors aboard the Zong, and its story was republished by British abolitionists with the name of the ship redacted, meant to show that this tragedy could happen on any ship transporting enslaved people across the Middle Passage. 24 years after the Zong trial, the international slave trade was outlawed in both Great Britain and the United States. It would take England an additional 26 years, and the U.S. another 58 years plus a civil war before the practice of slavery was officially abolished.
Okay. All right, so now I showed you that video, and I'm going to show you another video which goes further into the Middle Passage with more details, okay?
So we're gonna read the book then?
Yes, we will. Okay. We love ads, don't we?
Yeah.
And they force us to watch them.
I mean,
Slavery in Africa from
Can you hear it in the back?
is race. Europeans set in motion
I didn't realize that. You gotta pay attention.
And I think it's as high as it could be.
another great thing about the last 40 years or so. The volume of the trade involved
Don't shut it off.
about 12.5 million people from the African continent. The middle passage, it starts in Europe. The first passage is from Europe to Africa. The middle passage is the journey from Africa to America, and then
That's why it's more confusing. I'm learning.
Okay.
Play it.
from Atlantic slavery is race. Europeans set in motion a system of slavery that was predicated on the idea that certain people were marked as enslavable. We've learned a great deal about the Middle Passage in the last 40 years or so. The volume of the trade involved the removal of about 12.5 million people from the African continent. The Middle Passage was the middle leg of a voyage that starts in Europe. The first passage is from Europe to Africa.
Right, we
The middle
talked about that,
passage
the
is
Middle
journey
Passage.
From Africa to America, and then the third passage is the journey back from America to Europe.
the Middle Passage could take anywhere from 2 to 3 months. Men and women were separated. Men typically were held in the lower belly of the ship. The roof, if you would, was quite low, probably about 4 feet high, so people couldn't stand. African men were shackled together, and they were packed so closely together in a spoon-like position. And they would stay like that for pretty much the entire journey.
You're talking about hundreds of people. You're at 120 degrees. It smells terrible. There are actually people dying around you, which has to be a traumatic experience for everybody on board.
Maybe 10% of voyages, we know there was some attempt to.
Right, we see a rebellion trying to happen or happening.
Try to turn the boat around to change their destiny. Historians have a hard time capturing what the Middle Passage must have felt like for enslaved men and women. It's a voyage that is deeply disorienting. It's a voyage to a place that
No, that is from a movie. It's called The Roots.
What did I say?
I don't think we have adequate words to capture that experience.
I know this ain't home, but where you gotta be. Stop.
Okay.
It's called The Roots.
The Roots.
There's an appropriate time for everything.
The Roots. Okay. Stop saving, sharing. Okay. Okay. So, what were our thoughts on the videos? Yes, Jordan.
I think that like some things are. I was confused because some things are different than they were in the book.
What was different?
Like in this video, they said that the headspace was 4 feet, not like 6 inches.
No, I mean from the floor to the roof is 4 feet. But when you're laying down, it's only 4 inches of space. So you can't really sit up.
Also, they were saying how the men usually got to walk freely for like 2 hours.
No, it didn't say that the men walked freely for 2 hours.
The child walked freely.
No, they said that.
The children, right? The children were able to run around the ship.
They said for like 2 hours, all of them ran around.
Not the men. The men weren't able to run around. If we had the men running around for 2 hours, there probably wouldn't have been slavery, right? Think about it. For 2 hours, they kept
them like 2 hours, but for like 10 minutes or something.
2 hours, they were kept on deck.
Yeah.
Right? You read about that.
Yeah, but they weren't free, I don't think.
They were not free.
No, they were kept on deck to get the fresh air, but shackled.
For 2 hours, okay? Anyone else? What you liked, what you didn't like, how did you feel after watching it compared to the book? Yes, Edward?
What'd you just say? What'd you
Yeah.
just say, bro?
Yeah.
What'd you just
Okay.
say, bro?
Anyone else? Gavin? What are your thoughts?
I'd say like with the video, it opens up your mind to what really happens because it gives you like more of a sight on what the conditions are like.
Please, let's not be rude to our classmate. Okay.
Because like in the book when you're reading it, like you have to like imagine it, but when you're actually seeing it, like it's different.
Yeah.
Like, you can actually like see like what they have to go through.
Right, and you feel it a little more, right? It's different when you're actually watching it versus reading it, right? It's kind of like a sandwich. You have bread, you have meat, but once you put it together, you have your sandwich, right?
Yeah, meat.
Other than that, you just have bread, you just have your cold cuts, right? But once you put it together, it's an awesome thing, right? So now you actually see it, even though there's not a movie for Copper Sun, we can watch clips like this that'll help us tie in what we're reading, right? What did you think about it, Michaela?
I don't know. I thought it was like sad, kind of.
You thought it was what?
I thought it was like sad because they have to go through that.
You thought it was sad?
Sad because they have to go through that, she said.
Right. Do we agree with that it was sad?
Yeah.
Yes, Jordan.
Did you like ask people to make movies and like sometimes they'll make movies for you?
Who? Movie for what?
The Copper Sun.
I mean, you have to have somebody who's interested in the book enough to want to fund and make a movie. right?
You're right, I could do that. I could direct it.
You can make your own little movie if you wanted to. Maybe we should make that a project, Miss Vasanti. Anyone else? What are your thoughts? Dallas, what are your thoughts on the video?
I thought it was like, I thought it was like what Michaela said sad because like, and what Gavin said also, because like when you actually see it happening, it doesn't feel the same as like reading it because you have to imagine how it's like.
Yeah, it definitely does, right? Remember you read Outsiders, but then you watched the movie, right? So it helps you to kind of understand. But with this is such a tragic and traumatic experience, right? That has affected everyone on this planet, right? That of course you couldn't help but feel something, right? If you don't feel nothing, then something's going on within you, right? That you don't feel anything. What did you feel?
I feel like the slaves don't have to go through that because what they put on the ships, like the nuts, the guys promised they try to go overboard, and then the wall, and then
the barricada.
I didn't think it was fair to for them to go through that because they were just living their own lives, and then the white people didn't want them to work because they were lazy, so they just went over and took what was theirs.
Right. So let me correct you. Yes, it wasn't fair that they were kidnapped, right? Captured, stolen from their homes. But the Europeans and the colonizers didn't steal.
No, I'm talking about like they stole their freedom.
Right. No, I want to correct you. They didn't steal them because they were lazy. Right? Why did they do that, Jordan?
Because they thought they were lesser beings than them. Like lesser humans. They thought since their skin color is different, they're worse than them.
Why were they looking for a massive group of people? Yes,
Oh wait,
Diane.
I'm stupid.
I was told because they were strong and because, well, they could kind of live in the sun. It didn't burn.
Okay. Arnaldo,
So they could make money by selling them?
why did they create something called slavery? Why would you go to make an expensive trip, right, to a whole nother continent to take people? For free labor. It wasn't because they were lazy. It was for free labor. It had nothing to do with their complexion or they were strong. No, it was free labor. That's all it was about. Free labor.
They are lazy.
No, because they were creating America at the time, right? Okay, so there wasn't enough people. So you know what? Let's create free labor. Okay, I'll take one more opinion.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why does everybody focus on black slavery when there was other slavery all around the world?
Right, what other slavery was there around the world?
In Haiti and
They were enslaving Native Americans when they first came to.
Right, what's Native America? The United States, right? Right, we had the colonies before then. Yes, they were trying to use them as slaves. They were enslaving them at one point, but then it goes back into what Danae said. They weren't strong enough, they weren't healthy enough because they were dying from various diseases. We talked about that before, right? With the Europeans, they had the diseases that they had over there, and once they came over here to America, the natives were not used to those diseases, and a lot of them died on a massive scale, right? So there was slavery, right? But the slavery that we're experiencing in America is different than the slavery than ever before, right? The other slavery was because there was a war and you had a captive, but this is something different, okay? All right, so everyone, next time we meet, which will be, an assignment, you'll have an assignment, which will be for tomorrow, which will be to read chapter 11, which is Land Ho. And so you, by the end of reading that chapter, you'll be able to explain on that level what happened to the sailors and the slaves, okay? All right, everyone at home, have a good one. See you all the week after next. Enjoy your vacation. All right, everyone.